You're listening to Lore Friendly with Chris Takahashi. Alice Bell is sick today. So today we have a special guest. The one, the only, Ronja Monto.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Although I really miss Alice and her lovely honey voice.
Isn't she mostly just salt, though? Not as much honey as there's salt.
Not towards me. I felt that we really clicked last time.
No, only towards horribly written TV shows. That's mostly where she directs her energy.
Yes.
Some other news is we have a bot now on our Discord server. We have 2 bots.
2 bots? Oh, you added another one.
Yeah, they can even play music in our Discord, like voice channels. So if you type bot play sound of music, it'll play the sound of music, I'm assuming. I'm going to test that right now.
Oh my god.
Do you hear that?
I can hear it, yes.
You can even turn them up. Isn't that awesome?
That's beautiful.
I'm going to hit bot stop. Anyways, today we're going to talk about some mod news. The new Star Wars trailer, of course. Defenders, we're finally going to finish Defenders after all this time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're also going to bring Unoctium on to talk about Star Trek later.
Star Trek?
Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know anything about Star Trek. I'm a horrible.
You don't have to.
Horrible.
This
nerd.
is kind of more of a entry level Star Trek. It's not as much moral quandaries and discovering new races or new planets, even though it's called Star Trek Discovery. It's more of like action based and character driven. So it's more like Star Wars than Star Trek.
I see.
Well, speaking of which, the new trailer came out yesterday.
So I hear.
But you have not watched it. You refuse to watch it, even for this show.
I refuse to watch it because I saw it came up on my Facebook feed, and the comment said, "Oh no, the director says don't watch the trailer because it's full of spoilers." So I refuse to watch it.
No, but did you see his later tweet? He's like, "No, I changed my mind. Watch it now."
Really?
Yeah. He's like, "You have to watch it."
Oh no, I have to watch it later.
Yeah, in all caps. That's how you know he's being serious.
Oh, okay. In all caps. Wow, that's very mature of him.
Well, the thing about the trailer is, I mean, trailers are never going to be spoiler. You're not going to go into the movie clean because you've seen some hints of what's going to happen. But the trailers are always ambiguous. Like, they say, like, okay, this character might die, this alliance might happen, but it leaves you hanging. It doesn't actually tell you that X is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it'd be really stupid to do that. People would be
I don't
really
have
pissed.
any examples right now, but I recall seeing some trailer of a film that I actually already saw, and it showed scenes of like the ending climax, and yeah. It does happen, but it's very rare.
It would be like showing Darth Vader and Luke, and Darth Vader saying, "Join me," or something like that, right? And then like it's kind of implied that Luke joins Darth Vader, but then if you watch the actual movie, that's not what happens, right?
Yeah. That's right.
It's a lot of that kind of stuff, you know.
It's an art making trailers.
Yes, you kind of want to hook the person in without giving away too much.
Exactly, and make it look so much more exciting than it actually is.
Yeah, are you excited at all for this movie without seeing the trailer?
No, I mean, I'm nerdy, but I'm not that nerdy. I mean, I like Star Wars, you know. I like it. It's fine, but I'm not a die-hard fan. I don't have any posters or figurines or anything. I enjoy the movies, even the prequels, I'm sorry to say.
Even the diehards, like, I don't know if they'll be excited for this particular trilogy because it's not what they grew up on. It's never gonna be the original, you know.
Oh my god, there's a woman playing the main character. That's not Star Wars.
Oh, those people who fuck them. Who cares about those people? I'm talking more of just, it's not going to live up to that trilogy in terms of freshness, in terms of novelty.
Yeah,
it's kind of like if you listen to a band, the 4th or 5th album is never going to be as good as the first one for you. But if someone else comes in and the first album they listen to is the 4th album, they're going to like that one best because it was the first one they heard.
Yeah, and also for the time when the first movies were released, it was groundbreaking, like in cinematography in general. So that's kind of not a thing anymore because everything the CGI and everything is so fantastic. So it's not really.
Do you think that this trilogy will follow the path of the old one, and it's going to be dark for the second movie.
I think so, because it seemed, at least the first one, I felt like it had a lot of nods to the
Yeah.
original.
That was the biggest criticism, wasn't it? It was just a duplicate, a rehash of the original, as opposed to an homage.
I personally felt like it was kind of cozy, like the whole Millennium Falcon in the background thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was fun, I thought. But, maybe hardcore fans think it's just insulting.
Well, George Lucas was the one who was like really pissed about it, wasn't he?
Really?
He was, well, I don't want to say pissed, but he was just like, I make original films. This is just more of what the fans want, which is a retelling of the same story or something like that. I'm paraphrasing here, and that's not what he sounds like either. He has a much more pleasant voice.
That's a little hypocritical, considering how much the Star Wars franchise has been milked through the years with like friggin' bath soaps and coloring books and yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he sold the franchise for God, who knows how much money.
To friggin' Disney, right?
Yeah, it's not like this isn't something that he didn't have control over. Like, it wasn't stripped away from him. This is something that he kind of, willingly took part in.
Yeah. And it wasn't a bad movie. It was a really, really good movie. At least
it was a good movie. It's just, there's some people who think they should have went original. There's some people who think this is, like, what they needed to do is to go back to its roots. It's all in how you phrase it, it's semantics like that.
Yeah, you're right. I guess they're kind of trying to erase the prequels.
Yeah,
that were
midichlorians, all that lore.
Yeah. Although I was quite young when I saw the prequels. Just the right age to think Jar Jar Binks was funny.
Yeah, that's the thing. Kids loved it, right? Isn't that what Lucas said as well? It's like, hey, kids love it. I made this for kids. But
then it has like a person being cut in two and falling into a huge hole. So, I mean...
Oh, yeah, they had Anakin murder a bunch of young...
that too.
Children.
Yeah, it's for kids, totally.
Yeah. Watch people your age get murdered.
Yeah, it was a strange kind of contrast. Like, super, super dark, and then there's Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. In this movie, there's a porg. You haven't seen it, but it's kind of like a little puppy-looking thing. I don't know. It's gonna be this year's hot toy for sure. If we're talking about like merchandising.
Oh dear, is it cringy?
It kind of looks weird to me. Like, people are saying how cute it is, but it looks like a Furby to me. I don't know. It looks like a puppy version of the Furby.
What did you say it was called?
A porg, P-O-R-G.
Porg. I'm gonna Google that. What the fuck? It looks like some kind of a bird / seal / fish.
Yeah, it's weird looking. I don't know. I mean, it may look better, more CGI, but in that particular scene, it just looks weird and creepy to me. But
the face is cute, but weird combination of features.
It's kind of like in like every anime, there's like a creature like that, and it's usually just for the sole purpose of merchandising.
Yeah.
So it's just like, interesting.
I know exactly what you mean.
But yeah, I'm excited. It's coming out really soon, in a couple months.
Yay!
That and Blade Runner is another movie I really want to see, but have not seen it.
Isn't Blade Runner out already?
It is, but I am poor, so...
Me too.
Plus going to movies alone is always kind of weird.
I would go to the movies with you. Totally.
Awesome.
Every week.
We just need that kind of teleporter to be built first. Yeah.
Although I admit I've gone to the movies alone several times because I am such a loser.
Yeah, it's not the fact of going alone, to be honest. It's the fact that it's hard to find motivation to like leave the house unless like someone else is dragging you there. So there's that aspect. If it's just me, like then I have to sum up the motivation on my own. Whereas if I was with somebody else or a roommate or a friend or whatever, it's just like you have this motivation to hang out together. And what better way to hang out together than to sit in a theater for 2 hours and not talk to each other?
I guess I just really like the atmosphere in a movie theater.
Yeah,
like, popcorn, the smells, the soft seats and the darkness and big screen. There's always like a certain
but then there's
charm.
the people. There's all the people.
I know, right? Stupid people.
Well, that could be
Always.
hit or miss. They could. It's awesome when they all like cheer and clap. Like I watched Force Awakens in theater, and every time like a Han or Leia would come out, everyone would cheer, and it's like this whole like communal thing. But then
Yeah.
there's like times where like person in front of you is checking their phone, or like they're just talking in the movie. It's just like, yeah, it's hit or miss, I
Or
guess.
commenting on everything or asking questions like, why
Yeah.
did you do that? Who is that? And I just want to smack them in the face. Like, shut up and watch the fucking movie and you'll know.
Yeah. Oh,
Have you ever been in the situation where you've been the only one to laugh at a joke in a movie?
no, no, of course not. I'm too cool for that.
I
Why,
have.
you.
Yes. I've caught some joke that probably was an imaginary joke, but that I thought was really funny and laughed all by myself. It's quite embarrassing, but it's probably just because I'm a misunderstood genius.
I think I've done that. There was a scene in Force Awakens
Hmm.
where what was it? It was toward the end when, like, I don't know, where what's his name was pontificating, Kylo Ren. He said
Yeah.
something really, really cringy, and I was the only person who laughed. I laughed. It was a dramatic scene. It was really, really dramatic, and then Kylo Ren says his cringy line, and then I just
He has
burst
a
out
lot of
laughing, and I was the only one.
He has a lot of cringy lines, but I don't know, that
Yeah.
kind of makes him endearing somehow, because he's
Yeah.
like this sad little emo guy.
What did he say? It was toward the end. Kylo Ren.
You need a teacher.
It could have been any of his lines. I don't know if it was that specifically. I think it might have been before that. But yeah, I was in the theater not by myself, but I was the only person laughing. It was like a really dramatic scene, supposedly. Like, you can tell that's not the intent. They're
Yeah.
not trying to make you laugh there, and I'm bursting out laughing, and then everyone else is just like sitting there, like really, tense watching the scene. So yeah,
Yeah.
I did have that moment. Now that I think
Oh
about it.
no. Aw. Well, I don't
But
blame
I
you for
wasn't
laughing.
embarrassed because I thought it was funny. So.
Well, it was a little bit funny.
Um, moving on. Let's talk about mods.
Yay,
Today we get to
mods.
toot our own horns.
Oh, hell yeah.
I released a new version of Interesting NPCs. 3.41 is the version that's out right now because I had to make a hot fix for 3.4.
That surprises me. I didn't think that you would be working on that anymore.
No,
I'm very
no,
happy.
I'm not. I do not play Skyrim anymore. I do not work on Interesting NPCs anymore. But this was kind of born out of a forum thread. It was more of like, okay, this type of story and this type of character, it was an omission from the original mod. Like, how could you make 200 NPCs and not have this particular story? So it was just like, oh, you know what? I missed the mark there. Let me see what I can do to rectify that. So cut out. But did you enjoy the quest that you played on YouTube?
I did. It was very straightforward, but I like the little twist kind of thing. I enjoy that sort of thing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if people would enjoy it because it's a very progressive storyline, more or less.
Yeah.
How about that? It's very
Yes.
progressive. And the last time I made a character that was somewhat progressive, I would get all these nasty comments on YouTube.
Was it about what is it? The dark elf?
No, it was for Fallout New Vegas. It was a Legion character.
Oh.
And nobody had played the mod because it was just a trailer, right? And the second I put it up, people would like spam all their like, horrible, nasty comments, like, how like, oh, this is so stupid, like, without even bothering to play it and learn why, because they're like, oh, this can't be lore friendly, this is blah blah blah. And so I had to disable the comments there.
Oh my god.
But for this particular character, so far I've only gotten positive feedback, so that's good. But I do anticipate at some point having to disable the comments.
I mean, a lot of people have this knee-jerk reaction, like, "Oh my gosh, you're just pandering," that sort of attitude, like,
yeah,
like including people of marginalized groups is somehow
Yeah.
pandering,
or
like, okay.
representation and stuff like that. Well, the thing is, this was the discussion that kind of birthed this quest. Is that okay? The topic of representation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it pandering to add representation for the sake of representation, right?
Mm.
And originally I was like, okay, whenever I make an LGBT character, the character themselves has to be interesting on their own. That's the title of the mod, Interesting NPCs. It's not that they're interesting because of their gender or sexuality, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, in Skyrim in general, I mean, you made some really, really good gay characters in Interesting NPC that they don't rub it in your face. It's not their character is not that they are homosexual, but it's just like Amelie, for example. I mean, she's lesbian, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is correct.
And I mean, but that's not the first thing you think about when you think about Amelie.
Yeah, and see, that's where my train of thought was originally. But here's the thing. It's also a mistake to say gender and sexuality can't be interesting, because it can.
Absolutely.
And that's where there's a little bit of conflict as well, because I feel like there are stories that need to be told that are where you put your sexuality and gender in the forefront. Usually those are like coming out stories where people are oppressed in their society. But the thing that's tricky about Skyrim is that Skyrim is almost weirdly post-progressive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also. I mean, homophobia doesn't seem to be a thing in Skyrim. So that's why it's hard to make that kind of story.
Yeah, and we can talk about whether that's gameplay based or whether, because oftentimes you feel like Bethesda's like, they haven't really made any like canon LGBT characters, have they? They're just more or less.
No, I don't think so.
Like bisexual by gameplay default.
Yeah, everybody in the world is bisexual. Absolutely everyone.
Yeah. So that was the reason why we have straight characters, lesbian, and gay characters in Interesting NPCs, because I wanted to sort of make that part of their character, but at the same time, because Skyrim's post-progressive, it's not like a coming out story. It's not the main focus of their character. Yeah. But when we talked about this in the forum thread, like it was pointed out to me that for this particular character, that a coming out story would sort of apply in Skyrim. It would make sense more or less, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Given certain parameters, because just the state of being is sometimes a conflict, a source of conflict. It's not like a source of conflict where they're being judged by oppressors or being judged by other people, but just existing in itself is a conflict.
Yeah, and there's no science to help, if you know what I mean. I mean, in Skyrim, yeah, because they're like in the Viking Age, kind of, almost.
Yeah. So.
But there's magic, so there's that. But,
hooray for magic.
Yeah.
So I think it turned out well. I don't know. I mean, one of the persons in the forum thread did look over the script, so I kind of feel a little bit good about that they approved. But like, it's always like scary territory when you're kind of trying to write a story and it's not like something you yourself have experienced and you're trying to kind of, do it justice.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully I did. So.
Was it an LGBT person who looked over the script?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I at least thought it was really nice. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. And it was a good job. It was voiced by Space Fiddle and Potastic Panda.
Wonderful.
The famous Potastic Panda. She doesn't return my messages anymore.
What?
Because she's like big time now.
Panda, come on, respond to Kris. Yeah. He's also big time, His mod won the best mod.
We're small time. We have 1,000 subscribers. It's all right. Besides, if there's anyone's coattails I'm gonna ride, it's gonna be yours.
You know what? I would give you a shout out, but the funny thing is that my audience is not like. A lot of them are gamers, but not even almost all of them. I mean, my demographic...
No, don't worry, I don't care. Do you think we do this for money? Like,
no, I don't make
pennies.
any money. I just get happy if people watch. No, what was I saying? Yeah, my demographic is mostly like elderly ladies.
Awesome. I've been trying to like reach into that demographic.
Elderly ladies, yeah. And young men. It's a very weird balance. Like young men and elderly ladies. There's some kind of, thing.
Our channel is like 90% men. It's like, what?
90% men?
Yeah, if you look at the YouTube demographics.
Oh.
There's a 90% chance, if you're listening to this right now, that you are a man. A man, baby.
We need to do something to attract the ladies. Maybe we should, put pictures of Alexander Skarsgård on the thumbnails and
yeah, maybe. But yeah, another thing that's coming on the way that's related to interesting NPCs is your patch. You are making a patch, right,
yes,
for your Bosmer mod, Song of the
I
Green.
am. So, as you know, I am a huge fan of Dragon Age, and one very important thing in Dragon Age is party banter. And I miss
yes,
that in
very
Skyrim. Traveling with just you and your follower can be...
Yeah, it does fuck up balance, doesn't it, to have more than one follower in your party?
Yeah, you just have to crank up the difficulty a lot. This is what I do. I use all sort of difficulty mods, but you know, even then, the difficulty settings in Skyrim are really weird. Anyway, yeah.
And besides, you're not playing the game to kill things. You're playing the game to enjoy it with your imaginary friends.
Yes, and collect all the collectibles. All of them. And
Yes.
put them on display in your house. That's what I've been doing. I've been doing the fucking Thieves Guild thing. Just to get the trophies and put them on my shelf. I'm such a weird... Sorry. Bit of a tangent there.
But yeah, which NPCs from interesting NPCs do you have banter?
For now, it's only Zora and Rumarin. I have contacted Matt, who voices Danelan, but my brain is empty. I cannot write lines for them, even though it should be the easiest one, because they're both boss mid. They should have a lot to talk about, but I just can't, make it interesting or engaging or funny.
Hey, maybe that could be a conversation, like how difficult it is for them to talk to each other. Like we should have a lot in common. Like, why aren't we talking more?
Because you're a filthy apostate, she would say. No, I don't know. It's weird, because I feel like that it's important that the conversations are... All of them so far I'm trying to make funny, but they could also be interesting.
See, they don't have to be funny. So that's where you're mistaken.
Yeah.
See, if you kind of hit a certain note a certain amount of times, people get tired of it. It'd be good to have a mix of sort of funny, serious, and romantic even.
Absolutely, but it has to be interesting. Not just like pointless or boring. I feel like, because otherwise nobody's gonna...
Well, it can be awkward. Awkward is interesting as well. Like, that's the thing. It, like, interaction doesn't have to be like seamless or scripted. I feel like that's a mistake that sometimes shows make, where everything is witty, everything is like it almost like draws your attention to the fact that it's scripted. Whereas if there's like some kind of awkward conversation or awkward engagement between two NPCs, it helps add diversity to all the banter. Because if this one's awkward, then you kind of realize that there's a possibility that people don't get along. So then when people do get along, it's a nice change of pace. You got to have that counterbalance.
You're so much better writer than I am, so
Oh no, I am not.
Just for the listeners, Kris helped me write most of the lines. I wrote some lines and I sent them, and I said, would your character do this? Because you wrote all the...
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. It's hard to write for characters you don't know, or if they're not like, your characters, so it's a little bit different. Where, I mean, like, it'd be a lot harder for me to write for Ari than it would be for Rumar.
Yeah.
See, because I'm not familiar with her, and I'm not familiar with the character enough to kind of, like, be comfortable writing that. So it makes sense.
It does.
But look out for that. It's going to be
It'll
great.
be so
There's gonna be
much
tons
fun.
of awkward banter.
Hell yes. And because I've gotten some requests for a banter patch, so I'm finally doing it.
People, see, I just ignore those. When people send me those, I just like, whatever. The game is not designed for multiple people in your party. That's the company line.
Most of the people who use mods use several companions at once, I've noticed.
Yeah. It's for balancing, it's just not good. Like, obviously the counter argument for that is, who the hell plays Skyrim for the combat? It's not Dark Souls, it's just nobody plays to challenge themselves. And there are mods for that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe you should make a follower who doesn't fight but just kind of runs and hides for combat, so they're only there to make commentary.
Yeah. Like Navi.
Yeah. Listen.
But I do have banter and like multiple followers during quests, because then I could control how many enemies there are, and I could sort of try and balance it, just spam a few more bandits. even then it's probably not really balanced because the Dragonborn is so fucking strong.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, once you hit a certain level in Skyrim, even if you're alone, you one-hit dragons. I recently had that experience. I killed a dragon in one hit alone. And it was so lame, and I was so disappointed because dragons are supposed to be the, big bad.
I'll never get that feeling back. The first time you fight a dragon is so amazing.
I know.
And then afterwards, it's just like old hat. It's just like, fucking dragon again.
Yeah,
Get the hell out
blood
of here.
dragon. I'll just dragon rand and hit it once, and then it's dead. And everybody runs over and says, "Oh, I can't believe it." And I'm just like, I've done this like 30 times. So.
Yeah, because then eventually you get so many souls that you can't even use them all, right? You have extra souls in your inventory. It's just,
yeah, I mean, the game is good, but some things...
Well, I mean, in fairness, like, there's only... I mean, you're on your, what, like, 12th playthrough? 20th playthrough? I mean, how many games can do that?
Who, me? No, it's like my third, I think.
Well, still, third playthrough. How many games do you go through 3 times?
Oh, that's a good point. But I think, I mean, with Skyrim, it's a thing that you can pretty much play it infinitely because the mods make it. New quests, new stories.
Like, my favorite game of the past 5 years is got to be Persona 5, and I've only played... I put 200 hours in that. I played through it twice, but... I still have less hours than that than I do in Fallout and Skyrim. Like, Fallout and Skyrim, I have like 400 or 500 hours.
Yeah, they kind of eat your life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I feel horrible.
Like a cannibal.
The amount of hours I've put into Skyrim, it's very embarrassing.
No, it's not. Who cares what other people think about what you do with your life? I mean, what were you going to do otherwise? Like, sit there and browse the internet? I mean, it's not like any of us are really doing anything that's truly... like fulfilling.
Well, I could be making music. I'm playing Skyrim instead.
Well, in that case, you should really uninstall Skyrim right now.
No.
Last thing we need to talk about is Defenders.
Oh yeah.
Episode 8. We can finally put this show to bed.
So, tell me about it.
Yes, you did not watch this. Just like the Star Wars trailer, you are flying and blind.
Yeah, because
You're gonna just let me spoil it.
Yes,
for you.
go ahead. Because I didn't like it.
So, in the last episode, last 2 episodes, Danny Rand got kidnapped. The hand brought him down to the basement to like open this secret door so they can access their immortality juice and live forever.
Okay. Great.
Which is basically the plot. So, our defenders go in, and Colleen, who is like the Iron Fist girlfriend, she's basically like, we should blow this building up, right? So then the hand could get buried, under the rubble forever.
Right.
And pretty much everyone agrees except for Luke, because Luke is the conscience of the show. We kind of established that before. Mm-hmm. But then after like a little bit of nudging, they're like, come on, Luke. Luke's like, okay.
Okay.
So it turns out the only breakable thing about Luke is his character. He breaks that all the time.
Right. Of course he does.
And so eventually they get into some more fights. They go down to the basement level where Danny is, and Danny sort of kind of wiggles his way out, and then they have this big fight scene set to, and this is what Alice wanted to note, was the music for the fight scene, which was Wu-Tang Clan, Protect Your Neck. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard, not that particular song, but I've heard something from them.
We can ask Takahashi to play
Hell
that.
yeah.
It's one of the first Wu-Tang songs that ever came out, but I also thought that was a weird choice, but I think that's because she didn't watch Iron Fist. Iron Fist loves 90s hip-hop. It's like his affectation.
Oh.
So, that's... This is your kind of music. This is your jam,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
I know all the lyrics, too. But yeah, anyways,
You should be a rapper.
stop. Anyways, so that's the song, now that you're familiar, now that you're an expert on the
Okay.
I feel like it fit. That was like one of the things I thought was pretty cool. I don't
Yeah?
know. But I do think it was a little bit weird because it didn't fit all of the characters. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't fit Luke Cage at all. Like, he seems like somebody who listens to, like, a lot of Barry White.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Isley Brothers, got some Marvin Gaye. What do you think Jessica Jones would fight to? What kind of music?
Probably like 90s rock, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it would be like Joan Jett or something.
Yeah.
Like Bad Reputation. I'm a bad reputation. Dun, 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 dun. You know that song?
I think so, yeah.
Don't give a damn about my bad reputation. Dun. Like my singing. It's very good.
It's fantastic. Yeah, okay, so they basically tailored the fighting scene to the Iron Fist.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird, but also, I mean, it was right in my wheelhouse because it's Wu-Tang. What would Daredevil fight to?
I don't know, I feel like something kind of psychedelic, like maybe trance or something.
Like 70s, like White Rabbit or something.
Yes, White Rabbit, that's perfect.
But he's not like a druggy character, is he?
Yeah, no, but he's blind and he sees things in his little mine castle thing and it's all red and auras and lights and stuff. It's, yeah.
I was going to say classical music, like Mozart or something.
Well,
Bach
that too. That works too, actually. It's very classy.
Air on the G string.
I imagine fighting to classical.
Yeah, because Daredevil's like really like stiff and like square kind of like, but he's also very elegant and and
super cool.
So I think it kind of fits.
He's so cool.
We also got some really bad comedic banter. I think even at this point, like Jessica has reached the point where she's trying too hard. Like she called Iron Fist Ironclad. She's like, "Hey, Ironclad," and then he's like, "My name is Iron Fist."
Of course it was.
And then she's like, "I know." Oh, it just made me cringe. I cringed so hard. And then after the fight, they were all like gonna escape because like the C4 that they were gonna use to explode the building got set off accidentally, which is obviously just whatever. But,
whatever.
because of that, like they all had to escape. But Daredevil stayed behind because he wanted to convince Elektra that she was still good. It's basically the same plot to season 2 of Daredevil. They kind of rehashed a lot of plots.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, and then so the building collapses, and then obviously we know Daredevil isn't really dead.
Of course not.
But they kind of play it like he's dead. Yeah, they kind of play it like he's dead for like 10 minutes. Everybody cries. Well, everybody except for Claire, which is really weird. She was like, comforting Daredevil's lawyer buddy, but it didn't really seem like she was all that broken up. Which is weird because Claire and Daredevil were like really good, like they were romantic like partners almost, right? In season 1.
Yeah, I think so. At least for a little bit.
Yeah. I felt like she should have been sadder, but she was just like kind of chill about it. But yeah.
Maybe she was going for like shocked into silence kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe. There are things I liked, which is Luke and Jessica finally had like a conversation where they got closure.
Oh, really?
Because you remember Jessica Jones in season 1, like her and Luke kind of just left on like odd terms.
Yeah.
Because all the crap that happened between them.
Mm-hmm.
Because Luke is a really good guy. He's just like, don't be a stranger, don't be so standoffish. Like, I'm here, I'm your friend, right?
Yeah.
So it was a really nice scene. I really liked it. I wish there was more of it in this season. I wish there was more of this like character stuff instead of just the ninja hand and stuff like that. Which
yeah, I agree. That's the stuff that makes the series good, while the ninja Iron Fist cringe stuff makes it kind of a parody somehow.
Yeah, I kind of thought like Iron Fist was going to be the new Daredevil because if Daredevil's dead, like the Iron Fist in the comic books takes its place, I think, for some time.
Oh.
So I thought they were going to go that route, but it turns out Daredevil's alive, so that's probably not going to be the case.
Would he have to blind himself then?
No, he could just wear the costume.
Oh. But then it's not Daredevil, because Daredevil's blind.
Right.
What's
It's
his
the
thing?
Iron Fist. He's just wearing his clothes. I mean, he's not going to blind himself. Method acting.
Okay.
But no, I think that's the direction I thought that they were going to go in, is have him pretend to be the Daredevil in order to keep his sort of memory alive or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But he's alive, so... there's none of that. But yeah, things I'd like to see from season 2 is no more hand, more conversations like the one with Luke and Jessica where there's just like character-driven stuff and character-driven conflict, and they need more levity. With every kind of superhero pairing, isn't there always like a jokester guy?
Yeah, usually.
Like they need somebody, because everybody's so serious. Jessica's serious. She's cynical, but she's serious. Luke Cage is super serious. Daredevil is really, really, really serious. And Iron Fist is like, he's on another level.
But he's so serious that he becomes funny, but it's not intentional. That's the problem. We need somebody a bit more lighthearted.
Yeah. I wish they had somebody like that. Maybe they can just like drop Spider-Man into the group. I don't know.
Poor Spider-Man has no group.
Just have him join the Defenders. Defenders plus Spider-Man. Yes. Anything you'd like to see from season 2?
I don't care. No, maybe.
You just want it to be canceled.
No, I'm not that far. Maybe they do a better job with season 2.
You want these people to lose their jobs.
No, I want no more. No, can they just kill off the Iron Fist, please? Just kill him, and then I'll watch it.
And replace him with Spider-Man.
Yes, because I mean the actor is fine and cute and everything, but
Is he?
The character is just so horrible. And every time he opens his mouth, it's like, please, just shut up.
So, on a scale of Game of Thrones characters, what would you give the Defenders season 1?
I would rate the Defenders season 1 Theon Greyjoy. What about
you? Don't like Theon at all?
I think he's a very layered character.
And Defenders is a very layered show?
No, but it's both. It's okay, but it's not always okay. If you know what I mean.
I would give it a Rickon Stark.
Poor Rickon.
It has an important pedigree. It has a very like strong pedigree. Like, it's a Marvel franchise. It's got a lot of superheroes. Just like Rickon Stark is a Stark. You know? He's
but he's also
famous
like
family.
6, and then he disappears.
Yeah. But he's kind of non-existent at the same time. So
He is. I thought he would have a much bigger role, just as a side note.
Nope.
It's very disappointing. Nope. Nope. Oh.
So you didn't like the Defenders at all? Was it a really bad
not much,
show?
no. I mean, not a really bad show. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are things that are worse than the Defenders.
Oh, absolutely. Netflix is full of absolute crap among the absolute great stuff.
YouTube comments, for example, are worse than the Defenders.
Oh, definitely.
Tinder dates.
Have you been to any Tinder dates?
No, I haven't. But from what I hear, from what Alice tells me, they're awful.
Oh, Alice. Alice has been on Tinder dates.
Nazim winning the lottery, that would be pretty awful. That's worse than the Defenders.
Oh my god, he doesn't need any more.
Imagine if he just like had riches upon riches and didn't even earn them. He just won it in the lottery. How insufferable he'd be.
I don't think he would change at all. He would just go to the market anyway in his fancy outfit, asking Isolde what she's doing at the market, like an idiot.
Our president, that's another thing. That's worse than the Defenders.
Yeah, your president.
Oh, yes. Hashtag not my president.
And not my president.
Iron Fist season 1. How about that? Worse than the Defenders.
I have not seen it, so I don't know, but I trust it's probably a lot worse than Defenders season 1.
Anything else that you could think of worse than Defenders? Or is that the list?
The Krampus movie from 2013. Yeah, that one's also really, really, really bad.
Diarrhea.
Yeah, diarrhea's pretty bad.
Fart in a hot shower. Stubbing your toe.
I don't know, it can be stubbing your toe sucks, but farting in a hot shower, I mean, if it's just you, who cares?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. My singing.
Your singing is fine. And you should still be a rapper, It's your true calling.
Wet socks.
Oh, I hate Red Sox. Yes, good one.
See, there's lots of things worse than Defenders. It's
Yeah.
watchable. It's watchable. We made it. We did it. Well, I did
I
it.
did. Or you did it. I watched 5 episodes? Yes, 5.
All right, we're at the portion of the show where we bring on Unoctium to talk about Star Trek Discovery Episode 4. So, what were your thoughts on yesterday's episode?
Yeah, there's stuff I didn't like the security officer wanting to physically dismember the creature that can't be killed.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense at all. There was a lot of things that were done to move the plot. The security officer going full red shirt is one of them. The other thing was like what the Starfleet has 40% of their dilithium reserves on this one planet.
Did they say that?
And yeah, I think they said 40% of their reserves, and there's like barely any defense for it. So that was like the reasoning for why they had to like make the jump.
See, that'd be something I just wasn't paying attention to the episode, because that'd be something I'd be interested in. But like, obviously, like that sounds dumb as hell.
Yeah. We put all our valuable crystals on this one planet, and we failed to even present a modicum of defense for it. But yeah, I feel like Captain Lorca in general is kind of moving into that. He's kind of settling into this villain role, more or less, right?
I wouldn't say it's villain.
Yeah, maybe not villain, but like he's like the guy who started Jurassic Park, more or less. Like, what could go wrong? He's just,
Sure.
cutting corners, bending rules. I bet if you look at his stock portfolio, you'll see like shares of Skynet in there, more or less, because he's that guy, He needs to get shit done, and he'll do whatever he can. Well,
Yeah, I don't know. There's stuff I like. I like how, the crew are sort of bold and like shooting at things. But then there's just some real stupid world building that just sort of undermines the whole thing, which just like flies in the face of what I'm used to when you're watching a Star Trek series or something. So, like with Deep Space Nine or even with Next Generation, they would go out their way to establish a sort of plausible, consistent universe, and that's probably why the fans hung on, because it seemed consistent.
right.
But the fact that there's like 40% of Starfleet's entire lithium reserves in here, or you have security officers that want to dismantle a creature that can't be killed, or the fact that the Klingons have been stuck in the same place for 6 months.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw it, it was like Osama bin Laden being stuck on the side of the road for 6 months. It's just like no one came to get him. He just gave his message off, and then they were like, "Thanks, bye," and left him there.
Yeah, that really made no sense at all. Like, but yeah, I think everyone's sort of settling into specific roles. So you have Lorca being sort of the foil. You have Michael Burnham and the tardigrade. I think like the tardigrade is kind of like a surrogate for her, in that both are sort of being used for their skills and their talents.
Oh, I never thought about that.
I feel like that's the case because they'd have conversations that segued from the tardigrade to talking about Michael. Like there was a conversation with the red shirt where she was telling her that this creature is here is to be used. It's here to be used as a weapon, and you're here to help us make it a weapon.
Sure.
Like, we don't see you as a person. We don't see it as a sentient being either. So I feel like there's this kind of a connection being made between the two of them. And then because of that connection, there's this natural thing where she's empathizing with it. And I feel like that's where the story is kind of going to go. She's going to empathize with the creature, and Lorca's going to want to use it as a weapon, and that's going to create the natural
Well, that would
conflict
work if there was a sort of tension of her making friends with people in the ship. But as far as I know, they completely hate her, and she completely hates them. So, I mean...
Well, there is friendship with her roommate. Like, that's sort of kind of like thawing out. And there's also the first officer. There's still a little bit of conflict there, but...
As far as I'm concerned, like, the first officer despises her and wants to be anywhere aside from beside her.
I think that's just a misdirection, though. I think in the end, those two are going to align because she's going to side with the creature, right? She's going to side with saving lives, whereas Lorca is sort of like the one that's kind of baiting her to be her old self, her more destructive self.
What?
So I think in the end, her and the first officer are going to align against Lorca, I think.
I just don't think the writers can hit any notes outside of like her supposed friend's characteristics. So like, there's never any chance of there any friendship to really identify with. I identified more with her relationship with the tardigrade, to be honest. Like I thought it was an animal abuse story. I didn't get the kind of metaphor for her thing.
Yeah, it's basically become the plot of Free Willy,
Yeah.
more or less, where she's gonna have to save the animal. But I kind of felt like that too was, as far as like a writing sort of like a narrative structure, it felt a bit rushed in a sense, in that like the fact that she identified that the creature wasn't a predator felt like it wasn't seeded well enough. It felt more of just her being like a Mary Sue again, just being able to see things that aren't there.
I quite like that, to be honest. I quite like the fact that, you know, she used, what's his name, Sabu, I can't, after 4 episodes, I don't know his name, to work out if it was a predator or not, and that was quite clever. I quite like that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that part was clever.
As far as I know, the world building is just dumb. Just like, you know, as you said, all the lithium being in one world. The Klingons leaving their leader in a junkyard for 6 months. I'm like, you don't need the super spore drive. You know, these people leave their leader in a junkyard for 6 months. You can beat them.
What do you think about the Klingon subplot in general?
Yeah, that's probably what the thing that probably left the most impression on me, because it turns out we're obviously turning the Takuvma's protege into a secondary protagonist. So
Right.
So he's like, there's a kind of a sad reject plot, you know, where he's just like, you know, the other guy comes on, tricks him that he's a servile, then he goes to the other ship, then he comes back and then he's like basically tricked his crew, and now he has to go off in some quest, and you're like, oh, do I have to watch the quest because I wasn't aware we were caring about this character? Yeah. So what did you think of it?
Well, I kind of thought it was a distraction. I mean, it has room to develop, and it kind of like, you know, it might be something that interests me, but at the moment it was kind of just like something that took away from the conflict between Lorca and Burnham. It almost like glorified White Walkers, and like they're like a threat that exists to sort of move the plot for the characters we care about, you know. I mean, we might end up caring about this guy as well. I thought his assistant was interesting, because he was kind of boring in that he was like just this loyal Takuvma follower, like really strict religious, but she was more interesting in that she's willing to kind of play the politics. But yeah, I like her as a character. I thought she might be interesting in that she's multidimensional, but he's more of just like he's a Jon Snow to me.
Oh, the white Vok, his name was.
His name is Fuck.
Fuck.
Wow. His parents just did not think that through.
Fuck, son of none.
In fairness, though, can you really look up all the languages of the universe to see if, like, the thing you're naming your son is a swear word? I mean, maybe you know, maybe they didn't look at the English language.
Well, to be fair, he didn't have any parents to name him.
Yeah, that's true. He just named himself Fuck.
No, I what other part sort of stood out for me? Lorca with their super speed drive. Like, I'm immediately identified with the sad little abused animal. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the Federation could lose the war and mankind could cease to exist as long as the sweet little animal that kills everyone is safe. Especially to be safe from evil old Lorca, who's just, you know, letting his ship get shot at over and over again.
Malfoy, man.
First of all, he warps right into the middle of the Klingons. He has the immediate tactical advantage, and then gives time for the Klingons to regroup and start shooting his ship down to shit, you know? And, that was annoying, where it's just like, oh, our shields are 10%. It's like, stop showing off, you idiot. Start killing them all. Oh, God.
Yeah, he wanted to, like, leave with like a bang to show off his new like fancy warp drive, even though the fact that there's no survivors left to tell the other Klingons about the fancy warp drive.
Yeah,
the fancy spore drive, I should say.
I don't know what he says. Oh, get a look at our technology, and then he warps away and then kills them all.
Yeah, well, he basically dropped like a bunch of grenades at his feet and then teleported away, more or less, and then the people charging at him got blown up by the grenades. It was a great big show of nothing, more or less, when he could have just shot like the ships, right? I'm assuming. I don't know.
You do know that there's a big there's a sort of, you know, there's a sort of Federation Klingon war in the show, and that's kind of, there's a slight allusion to that in the original series, and again, like kind of fan canon type thing. And there used to be these I looked this up. There used to be these CBS, the owners of Star Trek, used to be quite liberal with fans making their own series. So like all these wee kids would like, you know, put boxes together and pretend to be, you know, Starfleet officers and things like that. You know, and but then there was usually these things were just like really low budget affairs, as you might imagine, with, you know, look worse than the original series. But there was actually CBS actually changed that policy drastically, because there was one series last year called Star Trek Axanar, which had all this amazing CGI effects and had all these great character actors from like Battlestar Galactica and other series. And it was like looking, and that was the main plot of that revolved around the Federation Klingon War. But unlike this, it sort of revolved around a much more plausible conflict, where, you know, people like acted like, you know, it didn't act like idiots, and people didn't store all their resources in one world, or left their leaders for 6 months in the junkyard. What's interesting enough is that CBS actually shut that down before Star Trek Discovery was known to the public. And then afterwards, they sort of released these guidelines for fan films that said, like, oh, fans can only make 15 minutes, like 50-minute fan films, and they wouldn't be able to make sequels to that fan film. Like, and like they wouldn't be able to hire any actors that were on SAG, and basically they couldn't spend more than like $10,000 on it or something.
Yeah, I think that's just because the quality of fan films have gotten to the level where it's indistinguishable from the real thing. I think in the past they're kind of just like let it slide, because you could always tell a fan film was a fan film, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays it's just kind of like, oh, like they don't want people to confuse the two. I don't know. Still
though, it's kind of like you have a really liberal policy up until the last moment, and then you switch it really hard right round.
Yeah.
Just to protect your series, you kind of look like an ass. And I'm like, I wasn't particularly interested in this, but like now that I've got like this really dumb world building, I sort of wondered what it would be like in a fan film where they really cared about this kind of stuff. Admittedly, you might have not had all the character building and so much and stuff like that, but like when you have like an interesting scene and it, you know, moves to something idiotic, is, you know.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna like watch it to the end, but this episode definitely sort of kind of crystallized where it's going for me. Like, I don't think there's gonna be anything surprising from this point on. We know.
I think there might be, yeah.
I mean, because, well, before you were talking about how it's gonna be like a creature from this eldritch world, and there's gonna be this other universe, right? And that sort of captivated me. But the fact that it's just a tardigrade is just, well, I mean, it's not a real tardigrade. It's just, you know, that's just what it looks like. But we know what the creature does. It's a supercomputer. We know where the conflict is going to happen. It's with Michael and Lorca wanting to weaponize it. And so I kind of see where it's all going. So, I mean, that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just there's less of a sort of excitement about what's going to happen next, like you might get with some other shows.
I kind of see like what you think might happen in like the final episode, like happening next episode, for example, like the tardigrade, you know, dying or something happening, or them finding some technical solution to harness it while not at the same time having to bother with the moral conflict. I mean, it's just that kind of show, you know, they had like everyone die in the first episode and things like that. So I can still see there being quite a few surprises down the line. I kind of feel like a fool for talking about the Eldritch thing, because it sounded kind of cool and I sounded quite convinced of it happening. But it turns out it's just...
Well, we don't know where it came from, though. That there is one mystery there.
It came from the writer looking up a Wikipedia article for tardigrade.
I'm kind of conflicted on that, because on the one hand, like, come on, make something more interesting, right? Because you have like complete creative freedom. On the other hand, I like the idea of using real world creatures only for children, because it'll get them interested in science, you know, because we have a lot of real creative creatures that exist in the real world. And it's like oftentimes children kind of like go to the fantasy aspect and look at the fantasy creatures because they're so much more interesting, when there are actually things like tardigrades that are pretty interesting. But they aren't supercomputers or anything like that.
No. Well,
I think the real supercomputer here is Burnham.
Pretty much. She's super everything. No, I quite like the the Klingon scenes, Klingon scenes, because while they might seem a little bit, you know, quite base, like, oh, poor little Klingon gets kicked out of the club type thing. I did actually read an interesting article where the writers actually did an interview, where they said the Klingons actually used to be based on things like the original series used to echo things like the series afterwards in the films used to echo things like the Cold War politics, and the Klingons used to be the Russians, and like the Romulans used to be the Chinese, for example, and they play the roles, you know, in this kind of sci-fi universe. I discovered it's quite interesting that they've changed the roles of the Klingons to Republicans.
Oh, interesting.
So I know.
So which one is Trump?
Well, I was reading the writers, and apparently Kuzma is Trump. But he dies. But I'm just like waiting for like them to echo the Republic, because the Republicans always like stab each other in the back anyway. So I'm like waiting for the Klingon Mitch McConnell to show up. Fucking Klingon Paul Ryan.
Yeah. So we Takuma, huh? Takuma is Trump. So he was probably tweeting like a madman before he started his whole.
Yeah, just like Federation, common peace. I know different. Sad.
Pretty much. They should have seen it coming. God, what was Starfleet thinking? Like, the answer was in the tweets. They should have seen it.
Yeah, they just ignored him, I guess.
Not that anything Starfleet does makes sense. Like, we talked about this, but the red shirt who opened the door to aggressively shoot at the monster that just killed an entire... potentially killed, hypothetically killed an entire crew. I have no idea what that was, other than just a device to like move the plot more or less, or to kind of show, like I was saying earlier, if the tardigrade is a surrogate, how they sort of feel about Burnham in general. I don't know if that wasn't abundantly clear by the other 3 episodes of them ignoring her, but
well, I feel that would work if Burnham actually depended upon people, but at this point she doesn't even depend upon oxygen, probably. So, so if she actually genuinely depended upon people as a family and things like that, but you know they're using her. But I think she will just do everything, because I think the characterization, while there's some interesting parts, and it's definitely a character-driven show, the characterization is just like is not very good. For example, with the first officer's brew guy, it's meant to imply that she betrayed her best friend, you know, the tall alien guy. But as far as I know, he can't stand her and wants every excuse to be away from her as far away as possible. Effectively, every scene he's in, he's blaming her. I thought you were meant to be in the prison transport. You were meant to be several light years away from me by now. And then her roommate, she's supposed to be endearing, but it's the same beat every single episode. It's the same. I'm a klutz. I shouldn't be in a military outfit.
They're gonna be best friends in like 5 minutes or something at the end. They're gonna just flip it around right at the end. And
what was the will? The will was meaningless.
Well, yeah, because it was sent prior to the mutiny, right? So
yeah, but it could have been used for like she could be having, what's the word? Doubts. I think the thing was doubts. I think the will did correspond to doubts, didn't it? Her doubts.
Well, it was more or less to represent what she was supposed to be, because it was sent before the mutiny. It was talking about her owning her own ship. Well, not owning, but captaining her own ship, and then like the contrast between that and where she actually was. You know,
it's the same beat over and over again, though. It's just like, oh, she's not. She doesn't. She's a mutineer. She's a mutineer. She's a mutineer. Like, we know. You know, and but then it would be much better if the will speech was more like she's helping basically Lorca and the crew sort of torture this creature and things like that, and then her will could appear and say, "Remember, our duty is to explore and protect life," and then that could
was there any advice for her as far as how to navigate the future or in that regard, like you were talking about? Was there any sort of that? Because usually that's what's in a will, right? Well, not a will, but like a video message. That was sort of like, you know, this is my last piece of advice to you as you continue on the rest of your life. Was there any of that? Do we just miss it? Or
I think it was what you were saying. It was just like, haha, you're not you could be a captain, haha, but you're not. You're a mutineer.
It's your fault I'm dead now. The other weird thing I noticed, just going through my notes, was when she was talking to the mirror, her roommate immediately recognized which one was the real her.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I do have a note about the last episode, about the whole thing. Remember when she collected that person's spit to get inside that security door in the last episode? Yeah. That was the most disgusting thing ever.
Yeah. Why?
If there's one thing if there was one security measure to get somewhere, spit must be the most unhygienic thing in the world.
Let me just get through this door.
It's just like they're just sitting in the writer's room thinking, what would be a good futuristic way to get through a security measure, but it hasn't been used yet. Someone's breath.
We'll see that. Yeah. You see, that's kind of like the problem with the show, in that they're reverse engineering a lot of scenes like that. They wanted to do the spit scene first, then they kind of created the security system in order to kind of fit that. Like the same thing, I think, with a person charging in when the beast isn't even really sedated. Because she said, like, run a sedation protocol or something like that, right? She told the computer to do that. She didn't even check if the creature was actually sedated, if the tardigrade was actually sedated. She just opened the door. And, of course, it just charged through. We know it's sensitive to light. And so why not turn on the lights really bright prior to opening the door? It's just, that whole scene just reeked of just kind of like wanting this character to die and then finding a way to make it happen, regardless of whether that made sense.
Maybe it's like a writing team, one of those writing teams that think it's too cool to develop the universe. It's like, if you develop the universe, you're a nerd, basically. If you world build stuff. It was like that in Doctor Who for like 5 years. When
there could be pressure from the studio execs, the mysterious, nameless studio
execs.
I
think they looked at the CGI and just went fine and hope for the best for their pay service that you have to pay an extra 10 quid for it. But I do think there's some writers out there that just think the idea of world building is sad and not worth the time you put into it. Like it's like Dungeons and Dragons or something. And the reason, and you might think I'm being, why are you just inventing an archetype out of thin air? I think I've come across a few people that just like destroy sci-fi universes because they just don't care enough. Like, and it might seem apparent, like, sometimes sci-fi universes that sort of dwell in lore can become boring and stagnant. But unfortunately, it's the other way is the same too. You can ruin something by not focusing on that part of the sci-fi world, and that's like. I mentioned like Stephen Moffat from Doctor Who, who just like who I think was a good writer, but he just because of the fact he never tended to that part of the universe, it just became worse and worse because there was no foundation anymore. Like Russell T Davies, like for all his faults in the early Doctor Who episodes, he made sure to seed things and build a sort of rudimentary order of things. I'm not talking about like maps or anything like George R. R. Martin maps and houses and everything like that, but I'm just talking about basic seeds, not like an active rejection of the world, if you know what I mean.
They just need to start from a base of what makes sense. Like the whole dilithium crystal thing is just one of those things where like they needed a plot device to kind of force the Discovery to make that jump, right? Mm-hmm. So they just kind of invented this planet which had a ton of resources, so they had to get there real soon. What they should have done is sort of create a system that makes sense. Okay, what makes sense mining-wise? What makes sense galaxy-wise? What makes sense defense-wise? And then build the story around that. And have the plot work under the rules of the universe instead of building the planet to serve the plot.
Well, up until you told me, I literally thought it was just people dying and Lorca and the Starfleet saying, if you don't intervene, 1,000 people are going to die. That's enough to warp there, as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just like, we've got no ships in 84 light years from your main resource.
And the reason that would make sense is because you could see how a cynical government or someone like Lorca would use like lives as an excuse to like motivate the crew, but also not care about those lives and use it as a test.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could see it work if you just use the lives as a basis. But the fact that you add the crystal resource thing, then suddenly all this planet is really, really important, and it shouldn't be like used for like a test to see if the spore drive works, more or less. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense in that regard.
I think if there was a plot to try and motivate his crew, maybe that might work. Like Lorca doesn't care about the 1,000 lives or something like that other, but his crew are kind of doubtful about the ship's mission. And like, everyone always says, this is not a science vessel anymore. We're up to no good. And it's like, as soon as Lorca says, there's a colony out there, but no one can get to it in time, and they're going to die, and the Federation is letting them die, and we can be heroes if we use our ability to intervene. And suddenly you've got yourself a plot that makes sense. The Federation does have worlds that are far out that they can't reach to, and
and that would fit the lore, and it would make all of us happy.
Yeah.
The fact that they did test missions as well for battle, like they actually explicitly showed a test battle where they died and failed, but they don't do tests for the spore drive itself. It is just kind of weird. They actually waited for an actual emergency where the Klingons with like 3 or 4 ships took one of the most valuable planets in the whole Federation. So
Yeah.
none of that makes sense. It's like, yeah.
It's what I mean though with the just writers. I think would look out for that, where the writers just like, for more things where it's just like the writers, it's like, yeah, the lithium, or why are they attacking it? Oh, because it has all the lithium in the world, but no one else can come, so basically it's their only ship, and it's just, I mean, I'm not saying that the films didn't do that as well, like like Star Trek films, like some big monster will be attacking Earth, and like suddenly the Enterprise is the only ship in the solar system. I mean, that happened a lot. I mean, but it kind of feels a little bit annoying here with, it just, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm probably still going to watch to the end just because, yeah, it started to lose me on this episode. It's starting, my interest is starting to wane.
Yeah, I liked it a little bit better, but I just think I'm going to watch it then, because I don't think we'll have a second season, because I just don't think it has the quality. It's nothing, I don't hate the show or anything. I just don't think it just doesn't have it, to, especially with the 2 paywalls or something you have to get to it. I only discovered it on Netflix. I only discovered Netflix today practically. Otherwise, so.
Yeah. So, how many episodes is it?
15, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 15 is too much. I don't know. Maybe
Really?
they're gonna delve more into the Klingon subplot. Because, I mean, 15 is good if we're talking about something where you're kind of expanding the lore, like you're talking about, right? But at the pace it's going at, are they really going to fill it with 15 episodes? I don't know.
Well, they can vary up the episodes. They can have, episodes with one person in a room, like when they don't want to spend any money, So they just
that's true.
They make a character episode with one person in a room. We can see Michael Burnham in one room, and we can see Lorca in the other room. And we can learn about their histories and so on. I still think there's potential there. I just think that
there's definitely
a ceiling.
potential to go back in time and do like a episode based on their past, like Lorca's past, how he got the way he is, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and maybe if they run out of money, they can ask Elon Musk for a donation.
Oh, they mentioned Elon Musk.
Yeah,
That's right. They did mention Elon Musk. They said, super pilots, something, Wright brothers, Elon Musk.
The Wright brothers, yeah. They mentioned one Star Trek character, and then Elon Musk.
No, they have to do that, because I remember in the old series they always have to mention, they would mention great leaders. Churchill, Putin, and then some Star Trek series, Star Trek character or something like that.
Yeah. And Xerxes.
Borgnak. Yeah. Although the worst one was a show called Andromeda, back in the early 2000s, the sci-fi series, and like it was meant to take place like 30,000 years in the future, and like normally the characters would have it was a kind of a space show where like the main character was basically a guy who was frozen in time for 300 years with his super spaceship, and then he wakes up and discovers that civilization's collapsed, and he's on this crusade to fix civilization. It's very high sci-fi. It's very in the future, and like normally how those characters have reflective discussions, and they might reflect back on the past to have to discuss the present. When the main character started talking about Churchill's experiences in World War II, when it's like 50,000 AD, and I'm like, they've basically forgotten about why are you doing this.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of like immersion breaking, where you realize like, yeah, okay, they're really not from the future, but yeah. But yeah, just to wrap things up, the story does kind of have this Free Willy theme to it, but in fairness to the show, I don't know if it's going to head down that particular path, because the tardigrade has killed people, so we don't know if it's completely peaceful or benevolent, or if that I'm just siding with whatever Michael Burnham says because she's always right. So that remains to be seen.
Well, it makes sad noises, so immediately I empathized it above everyone else on that ship, and the whole Federation. Basically, I was just like, let Earth burn, as long as that tardigrade is safe with mushrooms somewhere on some other planet. I couldn't give a flying F.
Hashtag Team Tardigrade.
In fact, I care more about fuck than the Federation. I sad fuck. Just like
Yeah.
he got duped by what's his face? This the other
I don't know.
the Bob Corker of Klingons kicked him
Yeah,
off his ship, and now he's stranded on some ship somewhere.
He's very sympathetic.
What would you call him? The Kid Rock of Klingons?
Well, if Takuvma's Trump, he's probably Pence, and that makes him a lot less sympathetic. But yeah, that should do it for this episode. This very long episode of Lore Friendly.
Oh, we've been blathering a lot.
No, it's not just that. We've covered a lot of stuff. We're also going to go 30 minutes of Star Trek,
Oh, hell yeah.
which we just did.
Yeah,
So-
you enjoy that Star Trek stuff.
Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, nothing witty this time. Last time I got a good zinger in at the end. I don't remember what I said, but I remember it was funny.
Yeah. We'll have to save it for next time.
Okay.
Say goodbye.
Bye, thanks for listening.
Bye.